May 22, 1968. USS Scorpion was somewhere beneath the Atlantic, heading home. There were 99 men inside the submarine. For them, this wasn't supposed to be a mystery. It was supposed to be the end of a long deployment. They had spent weeks away from home. They had lived together in a narrow steel vessel, surrounded by machinery, darkness, and thousands of feet of water. Now they were going back to Norfolk. Back to their families. Back to ordinary things. A conversation at the dinner table. A child waiting at home. A wife expecting her husband to walk through the door. Maybe someone had already started thinking about what they would do first when they got home. Maybe someone was counting the days. None of them knew that they would never see land again. On May 21, Scorpion sent a position report from south of the Azores. It was one of the last known communications from the submarine. Then the messages stopped. At first, nobody knew anything was wrong. A submarine could lose communication. There could be delays. There were many ordinary reasons why a message might not arrive. But Scorpion was supposed to keep moving toward Norfolk. And then she didn't come home. One day passed, then another. The silence became harder to explain. The Navy began searching. Aircraft crossed the ocean. Ships moved through the Atlantic. Other submarines searched beneath the surface. Families waited. And waiting is sometimes the hardest part of a disaster. Because when you don't know what happened, you can still imagine that everything might be fine. Maybe the next phone call will bring good news. Maybe the ship is simply delayed. Maybe they will come home tomorrow. But tomorrow came, and Scorpion was still missing. On June 5, the Navy declared the submarine presumed lost. All 99 men were believed dead. But there was still no wreck, no place to visit, no final scene, only an empty space where a submarine should have been. Months later, the search finally found her. More than 10,000 feet below the Atlantic, roughly 400 miles southwest of the Azores, USS Scorpion was lying on the ocean floor. The families finally had a location, but they still didn't have an explanation. The submarine had been found. The men had not, and nobody could tell investigators what happened inside. That is what makes Scorpion different from a mystery where there are witnesses. Here, there was nobody left to say, "This is what happened." Investigators studied the wreck. They looked at the damage. They examined the submarine's history and considered different possibilities. One of the leading explanations involved a torpedo accident. The possibility was that a torpedo could have been accidentally activated and eventually returned toward the submarine. It was considered a probable explanation. But probable is not the same as proven. The official investigation never established one definitive cause. Other possibilities were considered too. Mechanical failure, internal problems, a chain of events that may have happened faster than anyone could stop. And because no one survived, the exact sequence remains uncertain. There were also theories that Scorpion had been attacked by a Soviet submarine. But there is no credible evidence establishing that as the cause. And this is where we have to separate the mystery from the mythology. Because the truth is already powerful enough. We don't need to invent an enemy. We don't need to imagine secret weapons. We simply have 99 men who left for home and never got there. The men who were coming home. To understand why the disappearance of Scorpion still feels different after all these years, it helps to forget the submarine for a moment. Forget the steel. Forget the weapons. Forget the classified Cold War missions. Think about the people. A submarine crew lives differently from most sailors. For weeks, sometimes months, the outside world disappears. There is no normal sunrise. No walk on a deck with the wind on your face. No simple view of the horizon. Life happens inside a confined space. The same faces, the same machinery, the same narrow corridors. Everyone depends on everyone else. In that environment, small routines become important. A meal, a conversation, a few minutes of quiet, a letter from home, a thought about what comes next. And by May 1968, the men aboard Scorpion had something to look forward to. Home. The submarine had completed its Mediterranean deployment. Norfolk was waiting. Families were waiting. For some men, the first thing they would do after returning might have been almost painfully ordinary. See their children, call their parents, sleep in their own bed, eat food that didn't come from a submarine kitchen, walk outside without steel walls around them. Those things sound small, but when you have been away from home for a long time, ordinary things can become the things you miss most. And then somewhere beneath the Atlantic, that future disappeared. The last known day. On May 21, Scorpion transmitted a position report. She was south of the Azores. Nothing about the communication provided a clear warning of what was coming. The submarine continued west. At that point, nobody on land was waiting for a disaster. There was no reason to believe that this would become one of the Navy's most enduring submarine mysteries. The crew had no reason to think their ordinary return voyage was about to become something else. Then communication stopped. There is something unsettling about silence. A final message can sometimes tell you what happened. A distress call can reveal fear. A final conversation can provide a clue. But Scorpion did not leave investigators a clear final message explaining the disaster. There was simply a gap. One moment, the submarine was known to be there. Then it wasn't. And that gap became the mystery. When families started waiting. Imagine being told that someone you love is late coming home. At first, you don't think about death. You think about delay. Maybe something happened. Maybe the schedule changed. Maybe communication failed. Maybe tomorrow. That is how uncertainty works. It doesn't immediately give you the worst answer. It gives you possibilities. And sometimes those possibilities keep hope alive. The Navy began searching for Scorpion. As the days passed, that hope became harder to maintain. Aircraft searched. Ships searched. Submarines searched. The Atlantic became the focus of a massive operation. But there was nothing. No men appeared. No clear wreckage appeared on the surface. No confirmed message arrived. Eventually, the Navy declared Scorpion presumed lost. For the families, that meant something that is difficult to explain. There was no goodbye. No final moment at home. No funeral in the ordinary sense of the word. There was only the knowledge that someone had gone beneath the ocean and never returned. A submarine lost in an ocean. Finding a submarine is not like finding a ship. A surface vessel leaves clues. Debris can float. Oil can appear. A lifeboat can drift away. But if a submarine sinks into the deep ocean, the surface may look completely normal. The Atlantic doesn't stop. Waves continue moving. Ships continue passing. The sky looks the same. Thousands of feet below, an entirely different world exists. And somewhere in that darkness, Scorpion had disappeared. The searchers had to find something that might be sitting on the seafloor in one of the largest environments on Earth. Then came the discovery. In October 1968, The wreck of USS Scorpion was located by the oceanographic research vessel Mizar. It was more than 10,000 feet below the surface, roughly 400 miles southwest of the Azores. The submarine had been found. After months of uncertainty, investigators finally had a physical location. But there was a problem. The wreck could show the final result. It could not automatically show the entire sequence that led to it. And that difference would become crucial. The wreck. At that depth, investigating a submarine wreck is extraordinarily difficult. There is no sunlight. The pressure is enormous. The environment is hostile to ordinary equipment. The Navy used specialized deep-sea technology to photograph and examine the wreck. Images provided investigators with evidence. They could see how the submarine had broken apart. They could examine sections of the hull. They could look at where pieces had separated. They could compare what they saw with possible accident scenarios. But there was still something missing. Time. A photograph can show you what happened to a piece of metal. It cannot always tell you what happened 1 second before that metal broke. That is the central difficulty with Scorpion. The wreck was real. The damage was real. But the exact chain of events remained uncertain. The torpedo question. One of the most important explanations involved one of the submarine's own weapons. A torpedo accident. Scorpion carried torpedoes designed for combat. Investigators considered whether a torpedo could have been accidentally activated. One possibility involved what was known as a hot-running torpedo. Under a particular sequence of events, a torpedo could potentially run in a circular path and return toward the submarine. It sounds almost impossible. A weapon launched from a submarine coming back to destroy the same submarine. But this was not simply a story invented years later. The possibility was considered seriously. The Navy's historical record identifies an inadvertent torpedo activation as the most probable explanation. But there is a word we have to pay attention to. Probable. Not certain. Not proven beyond every doubt. Probable. That difference is important because the official investigation did not establish a definitive cause. So when we tell this story, we shouldn't say, "The torpedo destroyed Scorpion." We should say, "Investigators considered a torpedo accident the leading explanation." Those two sentences sound similar. But historically, they mean very different things. Could something else have happened? Other explanations were examined. Mechanical problems, internal failures, equipment malfunctions, different forms of catastrophic damage. The investigators had to work backward from the wreck. That is difficult enough with a normal accident. With Scorpion, there was another problem. Nobody survived. There was no engineer saying, "This system failed first." There was no officer saying, "We saw the warning." There was no crew member saying, "The submarine began flooding from this section." Every possibility had to be tested against physical evidence. And sometimes physical evidence isn't enough to reconstruct a disaster perfectly, especially when the event may have happened very quickly. The Soviet theory. Then there was the Cold War. Scorpion was an American nuclear attack submarine. The United States and Soviet Union were engaged in a global struggle. Their submarines operated in the same oceans. So after Scorpion disappeared, some people naturally wondered whether an enemy submarine had been involved. One theory claimed that Scorpion had been attacked by a Soviet submarine. It was dramatic. It was also difficult to support. The U.S. Naval History and Heritage Command has found no credible evidence establishing a Soviet attack as the cause. And this is an important lesson in historical mysteries. When evidence is incomplete, people often fill the empty space with a story. Sometimes the story becomes more famous than the evidence. But a documentary should do the opposite. It should bring the story back to the evidence. So the Soviet attack remains a theory, not a fact. And there is no good reason to present it as one. What did the men know? This may be the hardest question in the entire story. Not what destroyed the submarine, but what did the crew know before it happened? Did they notice something unusual? Did an alarm sound? Did someone recognize a problem? Did the officers have time to make a decision? Did the crew understand the danger? Or did everything happen so quickly that there was barely time to react? We don't know. And this is where storytelling can easily go wrong. It is tempting to describe those final moments in detail, to imagine voices, to imagine alarms, to imagine men running through the submarine. But unless the evidence supports those details, they remain imagination. The honest story is more powerful. We don't know what they heard. We don't know what they saw. We don't know what they thought. We only know that something happened, and none of them came back to describe it. The human cost. There is another number in this story. 99. We hear it so often that it can become meaningless. But 99 isn't really a number. It's 99 separate lives, 99 families, 99 sets of memories, 99 people who had ordinary plans for the future. Someone had a birthday coming. Someone had a child growing up. Someone had a letter waiting at home. Someone had probably imagined the moment the submarine surfaced and the crew finally stepped outside. That moment never came. The families were left with questions that no investigation could completely answer. And unlike a normal accident, there was no final scene. For many people, the absence of certainty can be harder than a terrible answer. If you know what happened, at least the mind has something solid to hold. With Scorpion, there has always been a space where certainty should be. More than half a century later. Today, we have better technology than investigators had in 1968. We can map the ocean floor in extraordinary detail. We can send advanced underwater vehicle to places humans cannot safely reach. We can photograph wrecks at depths that once seemed impossible to explore. But technology cannot recover a memory that was never recorded. It cannot ask the crew what they saw. It cannot bring back the final conversation. And it cannot turn an incomplete sequence of physical evidence into certainty unless that evidence actually preserves the answer. That is why Scorpion remains interesting. Not because nobody knows anything, but because we know so much. And still not enough. What we know. We know USS Scorpion was a nuclear-powered attack submarine. We know 99 men were aboard. We know she had been operating in the Mediterranean. We know she was returning to Norfolk. We know she transmitted a position report on May 21, 1968. We know she disappeared. We know she was declared presumed lost on June 5. We know her wreck was located months later. We know it was more than 10,000 feet beneath the Atlantic. We know investigators considered multiple explanations. We know a torpedo accident became the leading explanation. And we know that no single cause was established with complete certainty. Those facts are enough. We don't need to add something that isn't there. What we don't know. We don't know the exact sequence of events. We don't know the first failure. We don't know whether the crew received a meaningful warning. We don't know how long they had to respond. We don't know whether anyone understood what was happening before the submarine was lost. And we don't know what the final moments felt like inside Scorpion. That final piece is probably gone forever, because the only people who could tell us were the 99 men who never came home. The last journey home. There is something deeply human about the fact that Scorpion was heading home. If she had been sailing toward a battle, perhaps the ending would feel different. If the crew had known they were entering extreme danger, perhaps the story would be easier to understand. But they were coming back. The dangerous part was supposed to be behind them. The Mediterranean deployment was ending. Norfolk was ahead. Home was ahead. And somewhere along that journey, the future they expected simply disappeared. That's what makes the story difficult to forget. Not the submarine itself. Not even the mystery. It's the interrupted journey. A man leaves home expecting to return. A family expects to see him again. Then one day, the waiting becomes a search. The search becomes a recovery operation. And the recovery becomes a question that lasts for generations. The final question. More than half a century has passed since USS Scorpion disappeared. The wreck is still there. The evidence is still there. The reports are still there. The theories are still there. But the final moments remain beyond our reach. Maybe the leading torpedo theory is close to the truth. Maybe another mechanical explanation will eventually become more convincing. Maybe future examination of the wreck will reveal something investigators could not see in 1968. Or maybe the evidence will always stop just short of certainty. And perhaps that is the most honest way to end this story. We know where USS Scorpion ended. We know when she disappeared. We know who was aboard. We know the major explanations that have been considered. But we don't know exactly what happened in those final moments beneath the Atlantic. We don't know what the crew experienced. We don't know how much time they had. We don't know what they understood. And we will probably never know. Because the ocean kept the one piece of evidence that mattered most. Their voices, their memories, their final moments. 99 men went beneath the Atlantic expecting to come home. They never did. And somewhere more than 10,000 feet below the surface, USS Scorpion is still there. Silent, waiting beneath the water. A physical reminder of something we still cannot completely explain. The mystery isn't where USS Scorpion went. We know where she went. The real mystery is what happened before she reached the bottom. What did those 99 men experience during the final minutes of USS Scorpion? More than 50 years later, we still don't have the answer. And perhaps the Atlantic never will give it back.